everyone, and welcome to another episode of Miss Jody's Musical Minutes. I'm your host, Miss Jody. So glad you came to join us again. Today, we are going to talk about how we get from the beginning of the piece to the end of the piece of music. And, you know, a lot of times in these videos, I try to think of creative ways of what I could relate my message to with something that you're familiar with. Well, in this particular video, I didn't have to think very long because when musicians talk about how to get from measure 1 to the final measure, we call it the road map. I think we're all familiar with road maps. But that is literally what we call it while we're in rehearsal, is let's talk about the road map. Hey Mom, it's me. Yeah. Hey, I was just wondering if you guys are busy this weekend because I found out I don't have anything going on and I was going to come and visit you guys. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about coming on Friday. Which way am I going? I go 224 to 76. Why are you asking? Oh, there's stupid construction. Oh, it's at Barberton. I gotta go 277 north now. All right. Well, that's fine. I can find my way around there. And there's a detour in town too? Oh, the bridge on 170's out. That's right. They're replacing it. So, all right, yeah, I'll just take the Western Reserve exit, and I will go. I'll take North Lima Road. Right. All right. Yeah. No, I'll call you when I leave. No, it's fine. I won't get in rush hour in Akron. It's fine. No, Mom, I do not need to print out directions. I have a GPS. No, I am not consulting a paper map, Mom. This is not 1972. Alright, yeah, I'll call you when I leave. Okay, bye. So, a lot of you might think, well, I'm sure when you read a piece of music, you start at the very first measure, and you read it going left to right like a book, and you stop when you get to the bottom, or to the last measure. Well, that's not exactly how music works all the time. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times we have different symbols and different kind of markings that would tell us different places to go in the music. And while you're listening to the music, it sounds seamless and it sounds like one continuous long string of music. Sometimes our eyes are jumping from one part of the page to another in lots of different times in the music. So we have to figure out what the road map is before we ever get started. So let's talk about some of those markings that show us different places to go in our music. The most common one that we start with is called a repeat sign. Okay, so you know how you just went to the store for me? Yeah, I'm gonna need you to do that all over again, because I found out I have to bring 2 casseroles to the potluck instead of 1. So, could you just repeat everything you just did? Thanks, honey. You'll see that the repeat sign has 2 dots on the left-hand side of 2 lines, and that means go back, after you've played that measure, go back and start playing again from the beginning of the piece. If the composer wanted you to go back and play some measures over again, but not necessarily go back all the way to the beginning of the piece of music, then they would put in a backward repeat sign. You can see this at measure 3. So when you play this particular piece of music, you would play measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's your road map for that piece. I took out all the notes because I thought it was easier to look at how the line goes without all those notes jumbling up what we're looking at. So I hope you don't mind. It's just plain old 5-staff lines. So in music, we have something called a first and a second ending. Kind of like if I were to say the sentence, I'm going to the store to buy some milk. I'm going to the store to buy some eggs. It's the same beginning to the sentence, but a different ending. So we have the same kind of thing in music. So, have you ever been going on a long trip and maybe you have a youngster in the back seat and you're getting close to your destination and really before you want it to happen, you hear from the back seat, I gotta go to the bathroom. And you look in his face and you know he can't wait. So you take the very first exit you see, you get off the exit, you find the restroom, then you make your way back onto the same road you were on, and you go to the very next exit, which is where you needed to get off anyhow. Yeah, okay, we've all been in that situation. That's kind of like a first and second ending in music. So when we take a look at first and second endings, you'll see that in this piece of music, you will see that there is a top of a box around measures 17, 18, and 19. And then you'll see a repeat sign. When you play from measure 1 all the way to measure 17, you keep going into that first ending, which is measures 17, 18, and 19. Then you take the repeat all the way back to the beginning. When you get through with measure 16 the second time, your eyes would go over to measure 20 and continue playing in the second ending, measures 20, 21, and 22. Now, just like the other repeat, if the composer doesn't want you to go all the way back to the beginning, they might position a backward repeat sign to say, only go back this far. So as you can see in this example, the backward repeat sign is at measure 11. So when you start the song, start at measure 1, play all the way through the first ending, then go back to measure 11, and when you get to measure 16 that second time, jump to the second ending, measures 20, 21, and 22. Now, there's other ways to repeat sections of the music. If a composer wants to have you go all the way back to the beginning, instead of using a repeat, the composer could put a D and a C, the letters D, C, and that means da capo, and that means go back to the beginning of the piece and continue playing. If you see DS, del signo, that means you need to go back to where they've positioned a sign. Here is what the sign looks like. It looks kind of like a fancy letter S. It's kind of decorated. A lot of times if we see a DS or a DC at the end of a piece of music, we often see after that the words al fine. That means go back and play until you see the fine or the finish line. So it would look like this. You see, it would either say DS, which means when you get down to that last measure on the page, go back to where you see the sign and play until you see the fine. Or it would say DC al fine, which means go back to the top of the piece and play until you see the fine, the finish line. Another thing composers could do is to have a whole separate section that is the ending of the piece. We call that the coda. It also has a sign that we recognize when we have to find that coda section. The sign looks like this, kind of like a target in a scope. So when we go to a piece of music that has a coda, at the end of the piece, we would see either DS al coda, which you know means del signo, or go to the sign, and it would say DS al coda. So we would go back to the sign, play until we see that target symbol, that coda sign. Then right at that point, we jump our eyes to the end section that is labeled coda. Or we would see DC al coda. DC da capo means go back to the beginning, play until you see the coda sign, and then jump to the coda section. So as we musicians rehearse, one of the things that we often talk about is, how does our roadmap look? We have to sometimes practice making sure our eyes can remember where to go back to in different places in the music. Sometimes we might even have a page turn that we have to deal with if the repeat is far enough back. So we have to make a plan for what our roadmap looks like so that as we play the music, as I said before, it sounds seamless to you. As you drive, you would take different exits and different detours, and you would feel like your trip was seamless. It's just one long string of roads. Even though you had to jump on a whole bunch of different roads with different names, it still feels like a seamless trip to maybe that youngster in the back seat. So as you're traveling through your day and you're traveling through the streets and you're thinking about how to get from point A to point B, remember that us musicians do that every time we go to start a piece of music. We look at what is our roadmap, what are our detours, what are our construction areas, and where do we have to make changes in our route from measure 1 to the final measure. Thanks again for tuning in. I had a great time chatting with you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye for now.